So obviously I already have Photoshop open, but I'm gonna try open up a new tab here, which is this should be exactly what it looks like when you open it up. So if I were you, I like to keep my aspect ratio. If I was just doing something randomly for Instagram, I'd just make it a 5:7. That's an average photo print size. So for pixels, 5:7, you're obviously gonna want it a lot bigger. So I'm gonna do the width as 3,500 pixels and the height is 2,500. So that's 5:7, just a lot bigger for the pixels. I wouldn't worry about all this stuff down here. Just let Photoshop do that. It's more complicated. There's no reason to mess with that if you're just doing something like swapping a jersey or making a little graphic. So just let Photoshop auto-generate that. All right, so I'm gonna come over here and look at, I just Googled basketball player, in a jersey, and some things to look at, like if a guy has a basketball like right there, or his hand in front of the jersey, it's gonna make it a lot harder. So like that one of Shaq would be really hard to do because of these things on front of the jersey. So you basically want the jersey by itself. Okay, right here, his body is really turned. It's hard to capture that ratio change when you're putting on the jersey. So you want them basically to be pointing as straight onto you as possible. An action shot like Ja right there is gonna be hard to do. Just because to get the jersey to look like the player is in that position. All right, so defenders are always something you want to avoid too. Okay, so this stock image basically right here is good. There's nothing in front of the jersey. It's very plain. He's facing straight forward, and it looks like it'll actually be a pretty good one to use. So I'm just gonna click on it and drag it in right there. Okay, so something to pay attention to, every time you put something in Photoshop or you add text or you add a shape or anything, over here in this layers panel in the bottom right corner, it's gonna be a different layer. So in order to work with something, you have to click on it right there. It'll change to gray like that. All right, so to change the size for something, Command T to change the size. All right, you're gonna show up like that with these corners, and I'm just gonna grab that and make it a little bit bigger, just like that right there. Okay, so the first kind of option, there's several ways to cut this guy out, but we're gonna get the guy out and the white background gone. All right, and just to make the white background a little bit more obvious, I'm gonna do this real quick, just kind of for the sake of the video, or I'm gonna attempt to do it. All right, I'm gonna take my paint bucket tool, and you don't have to worry about any of this right now. Just trying to show you. Okay, so we wanna get rid of that white background. So I'm gonna go over here, click back on that layer. And this is the first way that I can do it. I'm gonna go to select. I'm gonna come down here to select and mask. All right, you don't have to worry about what any of that means. And then Photoshop actually has this cool tool called Select Subject. And basically it has the brains enough to find just the person in the picture, the foremost object in the picture. And what it will do eventually is it will kind of cut it out itself. And so I'm gonna come over here. I'm gonna shift my edge in just a touch to get rid of some of the white. Just trust me on that, basically. And I'm gonna put my feather over here at 1. And so instead of being a super straight line, it'll look a little bit more natural. Okay, so I'm gonna come here and click OK. And as you can see, that actually did a pretty good job. I mean, honestly, you're not a professional, that could work. That could definitely work, okay? You'll see like down here around his ankles, it's not perfect, little things of white showing up. So it's not a perfect picture, but just to show you, I'm gonna click over here on the left side. This is your eraser tool, all right? And you have to change your eraser tool up here. So I'm gonna make the size smaller, something real small. And my hardness, that just depends. If you want something that has a super faded edge or something with a super sharp edge, we're gonna go about 90. All right, now to zoom in on the picture, just like you were on like Google Maps or something, just 2 fingers and slide them apart to zoom in, slide the 2 fingers together to zoom out. And then what I would do here, if I had it like this, I would just make it, okay, so I skipped a little bit of a step here. So this is called a layer mask, which is showing up right here down this bottom right side. There's a lot you can do with a layer mask. It's sort of a more advanced thing. So if I were you and just need to do a simple, something like a jersey swap, I would right click right there, click with 2 fingers on the Mac, and just click apply layer mask. And what that does, it just gets rid of that white background completely. It's gone, and this is your new picture, okay? So then I'm gonna take my eraser tool, and that doesn't look great. It doesn't really look natural at all. So I'm gonna go Command Z, that's a big one, Command Z to undo. And to move around, I just have 2 fingers on the mouse pad, and I'm sliding around. All right, so I wanna make this eraser a little bit smaller. Now, remember, you can go up there and do it like that, but you can also just do your open bracket tool. That's much quicker. So I'm gonna change that size and just kind of go in there. That white didn't look real good. And I'm just gonna kind of mosey around in here and see what doesn't look just right. And that all looks pretty decent down there. Okay, obviously we're gonna get rid of that white right there. Okay, some white right there we don't like. And here, so for his hair, like we said, when it had that real sharp edge, it didn't look great. So here's something you can do. We're in our eraser, and you can actually change what's called your brush end. And so these are all different brushes. So like here I just have a circle one. That would be a bunch of little dots. Okay, so I'm gonna click on that one right there. And once again, my open bracket tool to make it a little bit smaller. And when I start using that one on the hair, it's just gonna look a little bit more natural. All right, so I'm just gonna go in there. Just clicking one time gives it a real kind of smooth transition. It's not a sharp edge. And I'm just gonna mess with his hair a little bit. All right, and then zoom back out, and honestly, looks pretty good right there. All right, so that's the easiest way to do it. The fact that it had just a stock white background made that work super well. All right, so that looks pretty good. Here's what I'm gonna do just for the sake of it. I'm gonna take this off right here. This little eye right here, it lets you see it or not see it. Okay, then I'm gonna come over here, I'm gonna take this same image and I'm gonna go Command T to change the sizes. I'm gonna make it bigger. And then if that selection tool that we did before to cut out the person isn't working, and sometimes it won't, you're gonna go to it's kind of the more professional one. It works better. It takes forever, just to be quite honest. Okay, so you're gonna click, this is called your pen tool. And what you would do with your pen tool is outline the entire person. So I'm gonna click there, click there, click there, yada, 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 so on and so forth. And the more you zoom in and the more of these little dots that you click, kind of the better the image will end up looking. All right, so I just came around there. And as you can see, it takes a little while. And once again, the more you zoom in, the more detail you can do, the more you zoom out. I can just do a couple points. All right. Okay, so that is going to take a while. And so I will speed it up right here and go to the end point. All right. So as you can see here, I've kind of gone in, super zoomed in, and made a bunch of dots around his whole body. Okay, so zooming back in here, here's what it's gonna look like. I'm gonna click all the way back around where I started, okay? And then I'm gonna right click and go down here to make selection. Okay, set my radius as 1, that's great. And you'll see kind of this white and black moving line. Okay, so what that is there's a selection on the screen, and it's really important that you kind of know what this is, because basically either when this is going, you won't be able to use any tool, you won't be able to do anything. And that was super frustrating to me when I first started, but eventually I figured out, okay, once there's something selected, you have to do something with it. Okay, so right now I want to keep what is inside the selection, okay? Let's say I wanted to get rid of what I had just made selected, these little lines. If I wanted to get rid of it, I would click delete, and as you can see, that got rid of what I had done. All right, Command Z, remember, is undo. All right, so if I want to keep what I have selected and get rid of everything else, it's this little camera thing right here. All right, And if you remember, this is exactly what we've done before. And right here, just go to apply layer mask. Okay, so another thing I did, I left his leg just kind of to make a point. This guide, Command T to resize, if I was doing his jersey, he's gonna look just fine like that. It's gonna be a lot simpler if we don't have to try to make the shorts look realistic on him. So I would just zoom into like there, and I would have just made him look like that. Okay, so a couple things. First of all, you can see when I did that, when I used the pen tool, it left this right here. So I would have to get rid of that. I just come around there, I make some points, yada yada, right click, make selection. Okay, now to do this, so this time I would just click delete to delete what's in it. All right, so once you've done this, excuse me, what you have to do is click Command D. If you don't click Command D, you are going to be lost. Command D is huge. You have to get rid of those lines, okay? You have to get rid of those lines or else you won't be able to do basically anything. All right, so another thing that I'll just talk about, I didn't do much with his hair because it's really hard to do that with the pen tool. I would just go in there with exactly how I showed you before if I was going to use this with an eraser tool and clean it up, something like that. All right, and so if I was going to use this, this would be something that I would do with a lot more detail. Okay, but if you remember, that first one that we did actually looked really good. So I'm going to click that eye thing to see it again. I'm going right here, and I don't need to see that one. All right, so like I talked about before, I'm actually going to do that. Command T. Sorry, make sure I'm clicked on the right layer. So right there, I was clicked on the number 2. I need to be clicked on that one. Command T to resize, and I'm going to take him out to about right there. Honestly, I'm going to do even more, just so we don't have to mess with the bottom. All right, so there it is. Now let's talk about getting the jersey that we want. So like if I was doing a UAH guy, I just come in here. I'd say, okay, this picture of Max, that's not really it because, okay, this one looks good. It's just going to be a plain jersey. There's nothing in front of it. All right, I would download that. I would do whatever, and I would put that picture in here, okay? And what you're going to do once you have that picture is you're going to cut the jersey out exactly how you just cut the player out with the pen tool. The pen tool is that thing, remember, where you make all the dots, okay? You would use that to cut it out. All right, and you would use the same steps that you'd use to get the guy. You'd use the pen tool, you'd click right there, the little camera to mask it, and then you would right click and apply the layer mask. Okay, so what I have is just a basic jersey that I've already made. Okay, it might honestly be that picture of Max, I don't know. But what you'll want to do the first time you cut that out is save that thing. Okay, so if I wanted to save this, say I had just cut this jersey out because I want to, basically because I want to do it on a player. There's a good chance I'm going to have to do that in the future. So I'm going to right click and go to quick export as PNG. And once that pulls up, it'll actually save just that part of the file. Okay, another thing, when this little thing shows up right here, on this picture, this little thing, you're not going to be able to do anything with your picture. You'll be super frustrated. Quick trick, right click, come down, rasterize layer. We won't even talk about what that means. That'll just let you do with it what you have to do with it. All right, so on this guy, Command T to change the size. And okay, that's a little bit too big. We're clicking and dragging to move. Okay, so we can already tell. All right, so when this jersey is long enough, it's like way too wide. All right, the way we do that, this little linked thing up here, you'll be familiar with that. When you click it, what that lets me do is change one, either the length or the width, without changing the other one. Okay, so now I'm able to go in there and do that. It's definitely too long. So I'll just shift that up a little bit and we'll go from there. All right, that's a good starting point, believe it or not. All right, opacity, you'll be very familiar with that. I'm gonna turn the opacity, I'm clicked on the jersey down. Okay, so we can see the guy under it and we can see the jersey. All right, now here we go. This is when it gets started. We have our jersey, we have our person. Now we have to put the jersey on the person. Okay, We're clicked on the jersey layer. We're going to go Edit, Puppet Warp right here. And Puppet Warp literally just lets us start going and dragging spots around where we want it to go. So like, okay, we want you to go right there. And we're gonna line up this part of the jersey where it goes. And we're gonna take this one over here to where it goes, and this one to where it goes generally. All right, then just a trick that'll help. Whenever there's writing, you wanna get the writing in the correct spot right off the bat. So I'm gonna put, these are called pins, and basically what this is, once that spot is in, like look at those spots up there, when I move the rest of the picture, those spots do not move. So once you set it, it's like you put a pin in there. All right, so I'm gonna put pins in the letters so they don't move, because when they move around, it starts looking really weird. All right, sorry about that. Okay, so now his body goes a little bit that way, so I'm gonna take a pin, but I took it a little too far, so spread it out, and we'll get his shorts kind of to look like those shorts underneath. All right, and then we look at it, like I can already tell, like this torso it's just too long, man. All right, we need it to be shorter. So I'm gonna right click and just delete those pins. Every one of them, because when I'm looking at it now, I can tell I just made his torso too long. All right, quick fix. I'm just gonna grab there, pull it up, pull it over a little bit to line it up. We'll get his shorts to look a little bit like those. All right, now we look in here, and basically you can see where this jersey is, and you can see where the white one is, and like, okay, it needs to be a little thinner. All right, trick. You don't want to grab it on the very edge because it's going to get that weird crease right there. Command Z to undo. You want to grab closer to the middle and pull it over. Much more natural curve right there. We'll do the same thing right there. Just suck it in a little bit. The USA guy is a little skinnier than how the jersey was laying on Max. Okay, now his hip has moved super far over there. So we'll just grab it and swing it over a little bit. Pull this neckline. Well, I was going to say pull the neckline up to cover that up, but it didn't look great. So we will actually just leave that there. All right, enter, bang. That was now what it looks like. Go back up here to this opacity and pull it up, and there you go. Doesn't look great, but it's starting to look a little bit more like it. All right, quick trick here. Click on the guy. This is the guy layer. And you see how right here, it's just outside? Well, now that we've decided that he's in a Huntsville jersey, we can just erase that part of him. So I'm gonna go to my eraser. Now remember, when we click on this brush thing right here, we went to this to do the hair. We're gonna go back to a normal brush with hard edges, just a circle. All right, I'm gonna make it bigger, so closed bracket. And once again, I'm selected on the guy layer, and I'm just in here, and here we go. Just simply gonna get rid of that white. We don't need it at all. All right, so here's just another thing. And same thing up here. I'm gonna get rid of that. All right, so now, and you're gonna have this all the time. The jersey, it kind of goes a little bit out too far on his arm, and it sticks out here kind of into space a little bit. So all I'm gonna do is just take my eraser and make sure I'm selected on the right layer, so I messed that up. On the jersey layer, I'm just gonna erase it a little bit. You do want the jersey to go above the skin. A lot of people, when they do this, they like line that up. That looks terrible. Make sure the jersey is significantly higher than kind of where the guy ends. Okay, that didn't look very good. So I'm gonna make this eraser smaller and just kind of round that edge out a bit. Okay, that might get too high right there, so I'm gonna bring it down a little bit. All right, now let's say, okay, that looks weird here. What we have showing through is the USA jersey, so I'm gonna go down to the guy layer, and I'm gonna erase it out of there. Being careful, but I'm just gonna get rid of that. Let's see if we have that on the other side. Just a little bit, just a little bit. So we'll get rid of that. I'm gonna click back onto the Huntsville jersey, and you see how it just, now honestly on this arm it looks very natural, but on this arm it's kind of going out over his arm. It looks weird. I'm actually gonna go back to this pen tool that we used to get the guy. Click right here, and just like we've done before, I'm just gonna start making a little path so this will look more natural. All right, boom. Stop it right there. I'm gonna close it out so it makes a shape right click, make selection, and I want to get rid of that part of the jersey. Boom, delete it, and there you go. It's starting to look a little bit more natural. All right. Now, what are we going to do about this USA jersey showing right there? Okay, this is probably one of the most important tricks I'm going to show you because this makes it so much easier. This is called a clone stamp, okay? It's kind of an advanced tool, but it's going to make your life way easier. So we're going to go ahead and talk about using it. Same thing as like when we had the eraser, you can pick a brush. So we're just going to do a normal one, and we can do size and hardness. We're going to do the hardness down really low. All right. Alt, hold down Alt, click a spot. Now when I go, what it's going to do, and I'm clicked on the wrong layer, so I do that all the time. Go back to the guy, hold down Alt and click. What it's going to do, it's going to take what I just clicked on and move it over to where my mouse is now. So boom, I just took that, I held down Alt, I clicked, I came over here, and it did that right there. So hold down Alt and click, and then when I drag, it just keeps doing it. You see that little spot on the screen is showing what it's copying, and boom, I can just kind of keep going, and you know, that doesn't look too bad. All right, I need to move it down a little more. Let's try it on the other side. Alt right there, hold that, slide it over, and there you go. And basically, I'm just gonna keep doing that. Hold down Alt, click it, copy that spot over here. All right, and let's just do that for a bit. Okay, so it's gonna take some time to get this to look good, and there's kind of just some art to this. You have to click the right colors so it looks good in the right spot. So I'm taking that darker brown, leaving it here. I actually want that lighter to go out a little bit, so I'm gonna click there. Gonna get it over that red. All right. Here's another trick. So on any brush, you can change the opacity. So I'm going to change the opacity down to like 38, open bracket. I'm going to make my brush a little bit bigger. That's a really hard line right there where it changes colors. Alt. And so now my opacity of the brush is at 38%. So it's going to take 38% of what's right here and put it right here. When I put it over here, oop, Command Z to undo, didn't need that red in there. And I'm just going to take a little bit of that white, hold down Alt, click, and put it over here. Do the same thing right here. And what that's doing is just smoothing out that line a little bit. And then when you zoom out here, not perfect, but it looks decent. All right, so when I do this, one trick I like to use, this little thing right here, the thing that looks like a finger pointing. And okay, Command Z, I have my strength at 83, strength at about 25 up there for this little finger tool. And I'm just gonna smooth it out. I'm barely moving my mouse. Just smooth it out a little bit. All right, so now we have him. All right, last thing that I would do, I would go to this jersey layer and I would do effects right here. I would go to drop shadow. Actually, I lied. Take that all out. I'm going to go on this guy right here. And this, once again, it's a little bit of a complicated step, but it's going to make it look way better. Okay? I am going to go to my paint bucket tool. That's a lie. I'm going to go to my brush tool right here. Okay, I'm going to click on it. Just like the eraser, you can choose any brush that you want. And just specifically for this, I'm going to go down here to this 16 brush. All right? 16 brush. You can change your size right here. You can change your size with the brackets, okay? Actually, let's do that brush. It's actually the same one that we used for the hair. Okay, and then I'm gonna change my opacity down to about 14. My flow is at 12, I'm gonna put that at 40. Okay, and then right here, this is gonna be the color of the brush. I click on that, I'm just gonna drag down here to black. All right, I'm gonna make this brush a little bit bigger. Okay, I'm clicked on the guy right here, and I'm gonna take that brush and I'm just gonna paint like this right there. And what I'm doing is I'm going along the edges of the jersey where it goes into the skin and just going over that a couple times till it looks good. What that's doing is creating a shadow. And you need that shadow because it's just how it works. Clothes, when they go, you can see it right there. Clothes, when they go to skin, they leave a little shadow. That's all we're doing, and you can be smart with it. There's going to be more shadow right there. So you see how I go back and forth on that several times because I know the shadow would be darker there. You don't need a ton of shadow right there. It's not going to be a lot, but there would definitely be some shadow there. So I'm going to add it in. All right. That is looking honestly pretty good. Okay, just the last thing that I'll touch on. You probably noticed that there's not a number on this jersey. If there is going to be a number change, and the reason I do that is so anybody I can put it on, I can just make it the number that I need to make it. Okay. If you need to change the number, that's something we'll talk about a different time. Not a super complicated thing, but I don't want to get into it right now. Muddy the waters. Okay. So last step, there's little things. You know how it kind of looks like his stomach is like sticking in there? If that's something that you run into, there are tools to fix that, but I'm not going to go into that now. It would just be a lot to cover, and hopefully your jersey doesn't end up with kind of a weird little thing looking like that. And here's what I would do. I would take this. I'm clicked on the UAH jersey, and I would click Command E. And now what we've done is we've combined those two. So when I go to Command T to change the size, I'm going to lock the aspect ratio right there. And voila, one picture. Oop, now you see right there where we cut it off. So let's go back down there, hide that, and there it is. There's our guy in his jersey. Not perfect, but looks pretty good. If we wanted to just get rid of him and use it for something else, right click there, quick export as PNG to do that. Or if we wanted to do that whole picture with our nice little blue background, file, export right there, and once again I'd export it as a PNG. Easiest thing to work with by far is a PNG. So hopefully that gives you a good idea of how to get started. There's going to be questions, it's going to take a while, but what you have there, it's a decent looking jersey change, gets the job done.